Scottish football has some legendary away days, but not all of them are great. Some away ends make you question your life choices. Whether it's being stranded in an empty stand, soaked to the bone, or squinting just to see the pitch, these are the worst away ends in Scotland. Let's get into it. 20. Hampden Park. Hampden is the national stadium, but for away fans, it's a disaster. The running track means you're miles from the pitch, stuck behind an endless stretch of grass and concrete. For club matches, like when Queen's Park plays here, the place feels completely empty. It's a stadium designed for athletics, not football. Away fans are left watching a game that feels like it's happening in another postcode. 19. Ochilview Park. Ochilview's away section is literally a few rows of benches behind the goal. No cover, no comfort. It's like being at a school sports day, except instead of kids running, it's a proper football match. The view is awful, the facilities are basic, and if it rains, you're getting soaked. Oh, and if Falkirk is ground sharing, good luck fitting in. 18. East End Park. Dunfermline's East End Park isn't the worst stadium overall, but for away fans, it's frustrating. Instead of getting a full stand, you're dumped in a corner of the north stand, cut off from the rest of the ground. The result? A flat, dead atmosphere with away fans isolated from the action. It feels like you're watching a game in a different stadium. 17. Forthbank Stadium. Away fans at Forthbank get shoved into a small section of a huge stand, making it impossible to build an atmosphere. The empty seats around you make it feel like you're the only people in the ground. The facilities are fine, but it's a stadium designed for crowds it never gets, and the away end is a perfect example of that. 16. Gayfield Park. Forget football, this is survival. Gayfield Park is the coldest stadium in Scotland, sitting right on the North Sea coast. Away fans are completely exposed to brutal winds, rain, and freezing temperatures. The ball spends more time in the air than on the ground because of the wind. If you're an away fan, dress for an Arctic expedition. 15. Broadwood Stadium. This is too big for its current purpose. Once home to Clyde, it now hosts Cumbernauld Colts in the Lowland League. The problem? The away section is a ghost town. A massive stand, oversized for the crowd it attracts, leaves it feeling lifeless. Away fans are often stuck in a cavernous stand with empty seats all around, killing any atmosphere. 14. Central Park. In reality, this is a stock car racing venue with a football pitch squeezed into the middle. That's right, the track completely surrounds the pitch, meaning fans are miles away from the action. If you want to see the ball, bring binoculars. The away end is barely an end at all, a section of uncovered terracing that offers little protection from the elements. 13. Clifton Hill. This is a relic of the past. Rusting, crumbling, and barely holding together, it's a ground that time forgot. The away section? A crumbling terrace with dreadful sightlines and barely any shelter. If you stand in the wrong spot, you might have a pillar blocking half the pitch. Built in 1919, Clifton Hill has been home to Albion Rovers for over a century. 12. Recreation Park. The Indodrill Stadium, as it's currently known, is unique in Scottish football, but not in a good way. Instead of a proper away end, visiting fans get dumped in a tiny, temporary stand that looks like it belongs in a non-league ground. With a capacity of just over 3,000, Recreation Park is one of the smaller stadiums in Scotland's professional leagues. 11. Boroughbriggs. This is proper old school. A throwback to a time when football grounds were simple. Just a pitch, some terracing, and a bit of fencing. That might sound nostalgic, but in reality, it means one thing: no comfort for away fans. Elgin City's home since 1921, Boroughbriggs has barely changed in over a century. The away end is just a flat section of terracing behind the goal. 10. Bayview Stadium. This is one of those grounds that feels unfinished. The away section? Just a random corner of the stand. No identity, no proper allocation, and certainly no comfort. Away fans are lumped into a small section that offers no protection from the elements and zero atmosphere. Unlike traditional football grounds, Bayview is a modern-style stadium that lacks charm. 9. New Douglas Park. Plastic pitch. No atmosphere. An away section that looks like an afterthought. Welcome to New Douglas Park. The away stand is soulless, with minimal cover, poor views, and an overall sterile feeling. Despite Hamilton's time in the top flight, this stadium has never felt like an elite venue. For visiting supporters, it's just a bad day out. 8. Lynx Park. This ground has a long history, but for away fans, it's a nightmare. The away section is tiny, cramped, and shoved into a corner with barely any legroom. There's little protection from the elements, meaning a bad weather day turns into a survival test. While Montrose fans enjoy decent facilities, the away support is left feeling like an afterthought. 7. Station Park. Fancy standing in the wind and rain for 90 minutes? If so, Station Park is for you. The away end is a completely exposed terrace with no cover and barely any elevation. If you're unlucky, you'll struggle to see past the home fans. The stadium's famous slope only makes it worse, leading to poor sight lines. Forfar's famous Bridie's might be worth the trip, but the away section? Definitely not. 6. The Balmoral Stadium. One of Scotland's newest stadiums, but also one of its worst. The Balmoral Stadium feels more like a training ground than a proper football venue. The away end is flat, lifeless, and lacking in atmosphere. Poor sightlines and a soulless design make this a forgettable away day. Cove Rangers have risen through the leagues quickly, but their stadium hasn't kept up with the standards fans expect. 5. Shielfield Park. This is unique in that it's home to a Scottish club in England. Unfortunately, that's where the positives end for away fans. The biggest problem? The sheer distance between the pitch and the stands. You feel like you're watching football from another postcode. The ground is shared with speedway racing, and that massive track ruins the experience. 4. Somerset Park. This is a classic old-school ground with one major flaw for away fans: the open terrace. There's no cover, no protection, and if it rains, you're soaked. Despite Ayr United's ambitions, the away section remains stuck in the past. The views aren't great, and the lack of seating means a long, uncomfortable 90 minutes. Some fans love the retro feel, but for most, it's a miserable experience. 3. Palmerston Park. This park's away stand is big. Too big. The result? A completely dead atmosphere. Queen of the South has a historic home, but the massive, empty stand given to away fans kills any excitement. If your team isn't bringing a huge following, expect to feel lost in a sea of empty seats. Add in outdated facilities, and this isn't a fun away day. 2. New Bayview. Built in 1998, this is another soulless modern stadium, another poor away experience. Kelty Hearts share New Bayview, but away fans get little in return. The ground lacks character, with an uninspiring stand and limited facilities. With little atmosphere and poor sight lines, this stadium does nothing to excite visiting supporters since it feels like a training ground. 1. Dudgeon Park. Dudgeon Park is a Highland League classic. The problem? The away section is basically just standing in a field. There's no real structure, no cover, and if the weather turns bad, you're out of luck. The setting is scenic, but that's not enough to make up for the lack of basic facilities. A visit here is more about survival than enjoyment. Scottish football has some incredible stadiums, but these 20 away ends? They're the worst of the worst. Whether it's terrible views, no cover, or simply a lack of atmosphere, these grounds make away days a struggle. Let us know in the comments which stadium you think has the worst away end in Scotland. And don't forget to like and subscribe for more football content.